Hello, and welcome to another episode of Generally Speaking. I'm your host, Bill Lawrence. Today is Sunday, October 12th, 2025. What's going on? First, what should be going on is hitting the like, subscribe, and follow buttons, of course. All right, now that that's out of the way, Christy Noam. She likens Antifa to Tren de Aragua and MS-13. So this is the administration trying to demonize anyone who isn't on board with the MAGA program. And so this is getting extended down to everybody who isn't. I mean, we're saying Antifa, but Antifa is going to mean anyone that criticizes them. And we've already got Stephen Miller saying the whole Democratic Party is an extremist organization. All right, so he's ready to get all the liberals um, locked up. ICE agents are out of control. All right, we all know that already. You know, they push people, knock people down into the streets. They shoot people from the roofs. Okay, rubber bullets and pepper balls, but still, why are they shooting anybody? People standing out there with just signs saying "Go away," and they're shooting people. What do we got next? A proposal to have a military base in Idaho. What's the big deal? It's a Qatari from the nation of Qatar would have a military base in Idaho. Why? I don't know. But what I thought was funny is the big commotion being made about it. That what? What? Why is there do you say it just Qatar army base or Qatari military base? I don't know. I'm going to say Qatari. All right, a Qatari base in Idaho, and people raising Cain. You know why? What's going on here? And I'm just thinking, it sounds outrageous, as you say, to have that. But meanwhile, we've got military bases in Qatar. We think nothing of it. Oh, they should be happy that we have a military base there, right? But now look, when the shoe's on the other foot, how that feels. Why is there a Qatari military base in the United States? What do they think about when we have our bases there? That should really elicit a similar kind of response. All right. Bondi, our U.S. Attorney General, she accused Senator Whitehouse while he was interrogating her at one of these Senate hearings. Um, she just refused to answer the questions and flipped the script and starts interrogating him, accusing him of receiving money from an Epstein associate, which this later just got totally refuted. It got refuted by him. And so was it actually refuted? I don't know. I didn't follow it, but it sounds like it was BS. But I wanted to just say, besides the fact that she's just spouting BS, is that these hearings, they just seem like nonsense to me. I used to think anything in front of the Senate was super, serious. You were really messed up if you got hauled to before the Senate for some kind of hearing, and then forget if you got subpoenaed or if you got fined with contempt. Oh wow, this was super bad. Now it's like frivolous. It means nothing. It's like I'm writing a little note to your mommy. We're not happy with what you said. And when you're before the Senate committees and they're grilling you, this is really serious, they'll just say whatever they want. They'll just start talking about how popcorn isn't as fresh as the way it used to be when I was a kid. Just answer whatever kind of statements they want to make to your question. Is a real serious question like did Holman take the $50,000? Where's the $50,000? And they go, well, when I was a child and we used to hear the sounds of the ice cream truck coming down the street, we would go out and blah 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 blah. These hearings, they're just a total waste of time. I was watching something and they just reflected back on something Ted Cruz had said about when he came into Congress, that his goal was to be the leading defender of Israel. And, like, what's this? You're supposed to be for America, not for Israel. So I'm just repeating that comment from back then. I flipped through a lot of channels, and I was watching this one, the Trucker Channel. This is a guy who's been making videos for a long time, things regarding truckers, but also with politics. And he was talking about, the impacts that the tariffs have had on truckers. How he'll go to places and truck stops where he had to wait on long lines because it was so busy loading freight and stuff. And he says now there's no trucks there. It's just like he empty. You can just go in and well, there's no freight to pick up. Just go out. But what I wanted to mention about this was he was talking trucker culture and things that go on there, and how they'll have arguments. They'll be picking on people because of what kind of footwear they wear. Like, oh, you're one of those flip flop wearing truckers. Yeah, I know just what kind of person you are. Yeah, it's funny when you're not in the world, you don't know the crazy things that go on in there. The truckers being freaking out about what kind of footwear you wear. All right, let's talk about home builders. These people who build communities, for instance, and they're building these homes. I was thinking, they are like doomed to always have to be building a home. Once they're done with those homes, all the workers will be out of work. The home builder, who he's not a worker, he owns the company. He won't make any money anymore unless he finds some more property. He's got to constantly be looking in every city, in every county, looking where's there free land? Where is there free land? Where can I put up a house? I have to buy this land. And it's almost there's this constant pressure to expand civilization, the cities. I've seen these movies, in the future, scientific movies. Star Wars was one of them, where the whole planet was nothing but a city. There was no more parks, there were no more trees. It was all city. And that's kind of what we push ourselves to because these home builders, they have to keep building. And, this is an interesting concept about so many things where you have to keep doing, or if you stop, people are unemployed. They have no more food, no more housing, no more money to buy things. What kind of a society could we have where you didn't have to have this constant growth? I think growth is a bad thing. Why? Because eventually you run out of resources. You can't have unlimited growth. So there needs to be a society in which we, manage income equals outgo, and it just stays steady. And part of that involves population. We can't just have population growing, but nobody wants to be told they can't have babies. They did that in China. This is what you can do when you have authoritarian regimes where they outlawed how many kids you could have, and so their population growth actually stabilized for a while. The sad thing about China is that they hate the girls. They don't want a girl baby. They got to have a boy baby. They're so misogynistic. It's the men. They're still with their misogyny. It's just all over the world, right? Where's the I've heard of an Africa, I think it was Ghana perhaps, where they really worship their women. They think the world of women. Mama, the woman in the family is highly prized. God bless them. I hope it's Ghana. I don't know. If it's not, it's somewhere, and I really appreciate it. All right. Well, I'm almost at the end of this. I had really nothing to say, but in fact, I think I'm going to title this "Nothing to Say." AI, artificial intelligence. I was looking at this story where it says it finally happened. AI killed someone. Now, I don't think it actually killed someone, but they spoke to it and said, "Would you kill?" In any circumstance, and they said, the kind of response actually a human would say, "Well, if you're trying to kill me." Yeah, I might want to kill you, and you might think, "Oh, machine's out of control." But I mean, would you blame the machine? You might say, "Well, yeah, you're just a machine. You don't deserve to live." But hey, it's the same concept. You don't want to be unplugged, either does the machine. But where I want to go with this is if we're hooking up artificial intelligence to weaponry, bad, bad idea. I mean, as it is now, we've got automated cars, right? So you've got some automated piece of AI somewhere sitting in a computer, right? I mean, it's just a computer. It's not even one of those robots that walks around, but it doesn't want to be unplugged and it sees it's coming. So what does it do? Well, everything's connected by internet, and cars now are connected by internet. So what could this artificial intelligence do? take over the cars. Everybody's in the cars, just drive them off the cliff. There you go, just smash them into each other. And that's just a simple example with we have cars. What happens when we hook up everything to the computer, to the internet? And now it's just like those movies that were very popular, where the computers are going to start a nuclear war uh, between nations because they're hooked up. So, just my thoughts about that. All right, now I had very little to speak about because, as far as I can tell, nothing's really changed. It's the same old. The troops are in the cities, and there's a fight in the courts to keep them out. And the Trump administration is doing everything in its power to just take power, and no more blockades. In fact, the only blockades that seem to be left are the courts, and not the High Court. The Supreme Court's all on his side. But at least the federal courts are putting some obstacles. That's the last thread. When they say hanging by a thread, democracy is hanging by a thread by these federal courts. All right. So that being said, I wanted to introduce something light. And while I surf the web, sometimes I watch funny videos, and some of them have background music. And there's a group that I've heard a number of times being used called Music Travel Love. Now, I'm an easy music, light music listening kind of person, so that's what this kind of music is. But it's just beautiful. They take songs that were popular, and then they just replay them with their own quality. And so I can't recommend them enough. Music, travel, love. If you like easy listening kind of music, don't expect any heavy metal stuff on that. So there you go. Then one last thing, I just thought I'd go off on a little philosophical rant. Like, how do you know? How do you know anything? What's real? What's not real? So the idea of what's real is inextricably tied up with another big philosophical question of how do you know? And so, I mean, you're going to say this is or that's real. The question would be, how do you know? I mean, where did you get that information from? Or what verifies that? So I'm going to start with how do you know something is real? Is first of all that you directly experience it. Secondly, someone tells you about it. Or thirdly, you use reason. You put two and two together and you see it comes to four, and that's how you know something. All right. So then what is reality? What is reality? Well, you could say it's the sum total of everything. And so what is the sum total of everything? It's stuff, it's things. Now science likes to break it down to its atoms. I don't believe atoms exist. I've seen the experiments that showed, there you go, atoms exist. And the best you can get with that is saying, all right, you could reasonably say that this demonstrates atoms. But the thing is, you could reasonably say it describes a million different things. I once took a course in chemistry, and I brought this issue to my teacher. He said, well, why don't you come up with a different idea? And I said, listen, I don't have, hours and hours and hours to try and spend and develop, a theory that these things take years, take decades. I'm not going down that path, but I'm just pointing out to you that the evidences that you presented are just weak. So that's as far as that goes. So as far as reality goes, we like to think that reality has nothing to do with us. That reality is there whether we are here or not, right? Destroy the planet Earth, it's gone. The universe is still there. The universe is part of reality, right? But in a sense, when we want to say what is real, like what does it mean to be, right? Because part of real means being, right? And then what is being? And it's funny how it comes back to, well, it's something that we can see, feel, touch, hear, somehow sense, which again, that starts putting it on us. And we all know it can't have anything to do with us. So maybe you would say, well, it has to be something that could be felt, seen, heard, or touched, even if we weren't here. All right. So what if I just call that, enough of a presentation for now. A nice short one. I didn't have much to say, and so I just went rambling a little bit. I wanted to say something about love. Like, what is love? There's two kinds of love. There's love where you just love someone and you don't know why, and then there's love because of the way they look, the way they behave, the opinions they have, the habits they have, how they like to stay out late, how they like to get up early, how they think this, that, the other thing. And so there's a little thing about love. Whatever. So rambling on, and enough of the rambling. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it and you subscribed and did the follow bell. And with that, the Sunday is over, and you're probably watching this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I hope your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are going well. You take care.